Dustin LeBleu here with the Dustin LeBleu CEO podcast, and I'm here with my main man, Austin Ray.
What's going on, guys? So, you know what? We went back and we kind of looked at the statistics of the podcast, and we realized that one of our best episodes talked about a subject that, again, I think a lot of people try to avoid. I think, you know what? It's kind of almost leading this off like we did on that one, but you know what? Let's tap into it and go a little bit further in explanation about it. And Dustin, what is that?
Well, it almost like we did a podcast that was like kind of I was a little scared to do. Not scared to do, but like, you know, I talked about sometimes I'll go to a dark place and I'll pull out really cool ideas that will work in business. And it's really fascinating that that was the most popular podcast we've done aside from like one other marketing one we did. But I mean, it's interesting for me, and it kind of shows me that maybe a lot of people are the same way, but they're scared to do that. And so hopefully that inspired some people to, you know, not stay in a dark place, but go to the dark place, pull out some great things, and then move forward with it. So yeah. I wanted to kind of like not really retouch on that today, but maybe go on, maybe talk about comfort and like doing things that are not so much comfortable, and maybe something that you're not boxed in society to say that you're this or you're that. Like you can be anything you want to do. It'd be anything you want to be if you really put your mind to it and really put time into it.
Yeah, and it's pushing, you know, kind of like you said, man, it's pushing outside of your comfort zone into something that, you know, society may tell you, oh, that's not a good idea. That's not something that you should really invest into. But the fact is that, you know, it could be something that's rather profitable for you as a person. Not even just profitable, but personally, you could grow in that area. So, you know, I know for a fact, I mean, like, look at all the different things that we do here. I mean, good Lord. We have, you know, like not just the supplement companies, not just, you know, the manufacturing facility. We actually have a clothing company. We have film companies. It's just like nonprofit, gym. I mean, like you go on. I mean, like we're spread everywhere. But it's just because,
tanning,
but it's because, you know, you've had the willpower to go out and try things that were outside of a comfort zone. Like I think that is like the true spirit of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and if like people that they don't really know much about me or whatever, go back and listen to episode 1. I've had to tell this to a lot of people before because a lot of the stuff we'll get sometimes is, oh, well, you've got some money, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not the case. You know, you go back and listen to episode 1, you'll see that that wasn't the case from the beginning. But, you know, like me and you were just sitting there, dude, and we were playing some beats.
Yeah.
And you gave me some confidence because you're like, man, this is actually really good. Like, this is good. So, you know, sometimes it just takes that. You know, finding somebody that can support you a little bit and you know, help you go to that place that helps you create. You know, if you're a creative person, you need to be using that and trying to monetize that in a way, because if you don't, I actually heard Jordan Peterson say this, if you don't monetize your creativity, you're going to be in a really bad spot because most creative people are broke as fuck.
Yeah, that or somebody's going to rip you off and then monetize it themselves, because there's always there's always sharks out there just trying to bite off someone else's creativity. So, you know, like I said, we've kind of got a new venture coming up. You know what? We're not even going to touch on what that is specifically, but it's the fact that I think a lot of people, you know, we're just going to kind of use our experience to reference, you know, perhaps what others will go through. But I feel like, you know, a lot of people in our town and or surrounding area, they may advocate for such a business, but then in the public setting, they're too scared.
Yes,
they're too scared to openly speak about it. Therefore, they shun it. And then I think, you know, that kind of like dashes the spirit of anybody looking to get into said business. But, you know, we were sitting there, we were getting a good workout in, and it's just kind of like, you know what? Why do people feel the need to do that? And you know what? Why is it such a good idea to actually maybe pursue those things? And I think as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to look at a broader picture and really, you know, step outside of that box that society has probably placed you in. And you know what? Normally, yes, your goal is to deliver the general public something, you know, such as a tangible good and or service that most people are going to use. But I think there are a lot of business opportunities outside of that box that, you know what I'm saying? Like people at first, they're going to be like, oh no, you know, I look down on that. But then, you know what?
They buy it.
They're the people that turn right around and buy it the second that it comes out.
Yeah. So like, dude, like honestly, before we get into like what we're talking about, I guess a good example, like we always go back to this, is Insane Labs. I mean, it really is, because the interest of doing horror films to doing scary movies, like to adding that into a supplement brand, really to most people it just didn't make sense. Like they're like, it doesn't make sense. Nobody's gonna want it. Well, that's obviously been proven wrong.
Oh,
so
God, yes.
That's been proven wrong, but that's a good example of having a passion outside of even what you're in the box to do. Because I was in the box of supplements. That's what everybody wanted me to do. That's kind of the thing. But I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do it my way. Here it is. And that's kind of what we're talking about on the new venture that we're kind of going to. It's like most people are gonna look down on this, even if they really don't even think that bad about it. They're gonna look down on it because of their perceived public perception.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right? Yeah, the majority of the public, they scrutinize such an industry purely because it's kind of like it's kind of like a taboo thing. That's the best way to put it. It's kind of like a taboo thing. No, guys, we're not talking about like porn or anything weird like that. Okay, so first of all, for the perverts, get that out of your mind, because I know it kind of,
we're not doing that.
No, but it's like, I don't know, man. It's just the best way to put it is just the public has to. I feel like they have to scrutinize it purely because if they don't, there's going to be that one person that they're scared of that's going to look back and be like, I can't believe that you support this. I think the public has too much fear to go along with such a thing.
Well, and we know too, like in, let's say, 5 to 10 years, the same public that's scrutinizing it is going to be with it. So,
and the thing
like,
is,
I see that vision to where it's not like the immediate time. Yeah, it's going to be kind of a pain, but in 5 years, it's not going to be, because everybody's going to be like, oh, that was great. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah. And
right?
And to be honest with you, man, I probably give it, honestly, I may give it less time than that. Now, statewide, yes. I agree with what you're saying for the whole like 5-year thing, but for the immediate, I think, town and surrounding areas, man, I probably give it 1.5 years, maybe 2 years at most, because I think that they're going to see a lot of benefits from it.
Absolutely.
Like,
it's going to be totally beneficial.
It's going to be jobs. 100%.
Well, and that's the thing, jobs, and that's something, if you have a good idea, it's like there's a lot of things that come with it. Jobs come with it. Usually the public perception is gonna evoke some kind of emotion because it's different. Like if it's different, it's gonna be either scrutinized or loved, and you're gonna get a combat of the people who love it and then the people who scrutinize it, which it just comes with the territory. If you're gonna be in it, if you're gonna be in business, just be ready for it.
Yeah, but you know what? You may think of it as a dark place, like kind of like you were talking about. So you may think, okay, well, I'm going to go to this dark place. I'm going to pull out some ideas for this, and then I'm going to immediately get out of it. Maybe the idea is that this is not a dark place. Maybe it's not. It's not.
No, this one I don't think is, actually. This one's not. And I'm not saying all ideas come from a dark place. For me, a lot of times they do. But this one actually, I think, comes from actually a really good place.
Yeah.
Which would be a little different from us. Not as always, but this is something that people can relate to maybe a little bit more than going to a dark place. Although the numbers maybe show differently. I don't really know. And that's the point of this podcast, is to talk about these things and see what people think about it.
Yeah. So, if you're one of those people that currently struggles with reaching outside of your box of creativity, and creatively speaking, you're bound by the public perception that what you're in should be, minimalized to a certain effect where it's not that much. Or like, I feel like even in today's time, a lot of entrepreneurs are stuck in that bounding box. But if that is where you're at right now, I feel like, maybe you need to take, maybe if it's just one day, maybe if it's a week, maybe just reassess what you're doing, and reassess, like, okay, am I trying to be happy for myself and do what I love, or am I trying to please the public eye and come up with something that they love for a short term? Or are you going to try?
You don't even know if they're going to love it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know what the public thinks they love doesn't even mean they love that.
Yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't.
Yeah. And I guess basically what I'm getting at there is like, don't hesitate to, like I said, take that one day, basically however long you need to go outside of that, out of that box. And you know what? Even if you're uncomfortable with it, you probably need to do it. At some point, you're going to have to do it, whether it be in your current business or a future venture. You're going to have to step outside of that, and you're going to have to face, I guess, that scrutiny that you're definitely going to receive, and you're going to have to deal with it. and you're going to have to build off of it.
And if you're a creative person, if you don't do that, the time you're 40 years old, you're probably going to hit a crazy ass midlife crisis. Honestly. I mean, I really think that, because as a creative person, if you're not going after new ventures, if you're not going after things that you love to do, like, I always feel like this way, dude, you can't marginalize a creative person in a sense, because it's just like, let's say I want to go out there and build basketball goals. I'm going to just do some crazy ass thing out there. Like, if that's what I want to do, I'm going to do it some way or another, whether it's taking scraps off the road and build it or whatever. I'm going to make a new way to a new sport, I guess. You know what I mean?
Make it happen. Yeah,
I'm going to make it happen. So you gotta find a way to make money, but at the same time, you got to be careful on how you make money, because you don't want to screw your ideas up just to take $1. You get what I'm saying? Is that making sense?
Well, no, I see. I get what you're saying. Like, you don't. I guess if they're, kind of like a hesitation type thing, like, don't take the bottom dollar for kind of like playing it safe when you could take, that's kind of the way I think.
Here's the deal. There's a lot of guys that know when they see creative people, they know that a lot of times they're going to be desperate to make money, because like I said, it's really hard to make money in being creative and stepping outside the box, because nobody really realizes that this idea is the next big thing, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody realizes that. But some of these, let's say private equity guys, they will understand it, and they'll be like, hey, we'll, take 80% of your company, this, and another, but we'll help fund it, right? You need funding, but you got to be really careful in that, because you may have the next Facebook or whatever, and you just gave away 80% of your company. And guess what? You would have done it anyway. You would have found a way to do it anyway, because you're a creative person. That's just the way you are, and you can't stop that.
Exactly.
So be very, very aware of some things you have. And I'm not saying don't take a deal. Just be aware that you just can't always be desperate. But then again, you can't always be think your idea is the best thing ever as well, because you're going to have more and more ideas. If you're creative, you ain't going to stop at one idea. If you consider yourself a creative person, you've had one idea in your life, you're just not. It's just, you're not one of those people.
Wait.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. I thought I heard. My bad, man. I thought I
totally... Oh, you heard a ghost.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so for those of you that don't know, the house, well, it's not really a house, the studio we're in is supposedly haunted. And I swear to God, I was just sitting here, I was like, wait a second. I was like, what is that noise? But anyway.
I think it was my son actually knocking on the door, actually. My wife just texted me. She said, I forgot he was coming by because she had to go to the dentist. So I was like, that's probably what it was. Right?
But anyway, guys, I mean, like, I just kind of, I felt like today it was, probably very imperative that we kind of defined what we meant by that podcast too, about the dark place. It's not, I guess when you use the word dark place, some people misconceive what you mean. Like,
I'm not talking about like going in there and like wanting to kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, it's like going in there, and I say in there, I usually will isolate myself and go into a room and just kind of like, I'll be alone in my own thoughts, I guess. That's the way to say it, right?
Yeah.
And then they may not be so good at that time, but the ideas that flow out of that state are really good.
Yeah.
Once I get back into my normal state.
Yeah.
It's going to sound strange, and I know it does, and I've had people talk to me about that podcast before. Obviously not as many people who've downloaded it, but it's just one of those things, man, that only certain type of people, I think, get. But you can't be afraid of it.
Yeah, it's the creative people.
Yeah.
Like, it really, and you know what, you may not understand that, be creative. I'm not going to generalize, like a certain group of people. So what do you think would be some common questions someone might ask? Potentially, like, okay, I want to go outside of the box. How do I do it? Well, the first step is, I don't want to sound too harsh, but don't be a bitch about it. Like, I hate being that.
If you're a creative person, I don't even know that you would necessarily consider ever being in a box unless you took some kind of monetary, advance or something, that you had somebody keeping you in the box, and you always want to get outside the box, and that money's keeping you there.
Yeah.
That quote where I had like, where money could be a control system. That's kind of what I meant by that.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes money keeps people at where they're at, when in reality they could have done something really a lot crazier and a lot better if they would have not had the money attached to it, maybe.
No, dude, I agree.
What was your question again? Damn, I felt like I just went off on a tangent there.
No, man, I mean, you hit it. But I was saying, like, like for people that want to basically go outside of the box that they're in or the societal constraints. Like,
Oh, okay.
so I mean, like you may label yourself as an entrepreneur, more or less. Like if you're asking that question, you're probably a wantrepreneur, because if you don't understand that going outside of that box is something that's, kind of like imperative.
I guess that's where I was going with it. Yeah, it's like if you consider yourself getting in a box like that, you're either taking that monetary value or whatever, or you're just probably not really that creative of a person. And I'm not dogging anybody that's not creative. I think creativity is probably a curse in reality. And there's just so many different personality types out there. So you got to really, I think, Austin, I think like it's like one of those things where you have to classify yourself, figure out what you are best at.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
If you're not a creative person, you might be really good at running a company. Like that's something to where I'm not the strongest at. I'm not the strongest at the X's and O's of running, each little aspect of the company, right? But I have people in place that are really good at that.
Mm-hmm. And
that's where, when you listen to our podcast, and I'm going to say our podcast now because it kind of me and you are on here and everybody knows both of us, but it's like, that's the things that we're trying to teach you along the way. And we're, good ways into this, but we're talking about creativity because it could be a start of something great for you.
Yeah. No. Like that's kind of like, we had the marketing episodes, but then people, they're like, well, how do I come up with a company? I was like, oh God, we just went full circle. Now we're back at square one. Like we were just trying to tell you, because we had a bunch of questions come in about the company and how to market it. Then it was just like, well, how do I start one? And it's just like, oh boy.
And I don't think people understand when they ask, like, how do I start one? It's like, dude, we have like, we're going on 15 now that are like different types of companies all over the place. So
bro,
you can see the creativity flowing there. And like, I have guys that like want to hold me back sometimes, like, dude, stop, this is crazy. Like, quit doing that.
There's a reason everyone has a job. There's a reason,
right.
You know what I'm saying? But the point being, like the reason we, kind of relate how to start a business or anything with that is because if you're trying to start one, you're probably, odds are you're looking at like the immediate and thinking, okay, what can I do now that's popular? Like that may not be your best option. In fact, it's probably not, because are you going for short-term monetary gain or like a long-term investment that could potentially net you millions?
Here's the way to think, man. If you look at what's popular now, you've already missed the boat.
Oh God, yes.
So you gotta like have and I've talked about this before, but you gotta have a vision. So if you have a vision of what's 5 years from now, I like to look 5 years out. That's kind of like my thing. It's always my go-to. Like I'm looking 5 years out. If you're looking 5 years out, 5 to 10 years out, you're going to be in a really good position because you're kind of like predicting some things that are going to happen in a way, but they're educated predictions because you've seen it happen over time in your life that you're like, okay, every 5 years, I seem to be kind of like, I'm pretty close to being right here. So that's the kind of entrepreneur risk that you're going to take sometimes. Yeah. If you're just going like, hey, there's Insane Labs, I'm going to create Insane Labs with an S, you're just going to lose.
Yeah. Or if you're one of those companies, oh God, don't, you know what? I'm not even going to go off on that right now. The copycats and like blatantly ripping
We'll do an
off.
episode about that one day.
But what do they normally say? What is it? The hindsight's 20/20 or whatever. Well, hindsight's looking backwards. Okay. You need foresight. So I would say foresight's like, I know vision's 20/20, but if I could go more than that, like 100, whatever it is, like foresight's more important than looking back. Like if you're wanting to do something current, like if you want to go off a current trend, you're already looking backwards, because in the time it's going to take you to create a company based off a current trend, by the time it actually happens next week, that trend could be gone.
Yeah. And like, you know me, dude, like I don't look back. Like looking back annoys the living shit out of me. Like to do episode 1 was incredibly difficult for me because I didn't want to look back, because I'm always like forward, what's next, So yeah, I think you're right, man. Looking back, if you're what you said, hindsight's 20/20. Well, no shit it is, because you fucking already happened. I'm like, that's a stupid saying, to be honest with you. Like, it's like hindsight. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a good saying, but it's like, it's going to happen. You didn't really do anything that anybody else can't do.
Well, it's just like saying, oh, look, I just, like I can sit here and catalog my experiences of the past. Well, no shit, it's already happened. Duh.
Yeah. So amazing, bro.
Yeah. So where the true entrepreneur is at is within foresight. So if you can foresee what's going to happen or a trend that's going to hit, I mean, for instance, you know what? Let's really just kind of try to generalize this in a real easy way for people that don't understand what we're saying. Look at YouTube. look at trends. Are you one of those people that tries to hit the trend before it happens, or are you one of those people that tries to ride on the coattail of the current
It's a good
trend?
example for the younger crowd, by the way.
And that's what I'm trying to hit is like so much of our younger generation can relate to YouTube because, good God, it's one of the most popular platforms. And so many people try to create content on there. So if you're
I'm finding that to be a crutch, actually, YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even with my kids, it's like, I can't do anything unless it's YouTube. It's like, yeah, right now, that's like the wave, but think down the future. Think of the future, you know?
Well, and plus, YouTube is creatively killing people right now with ads and all that stuff.
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah. But the point being is like, for instance, is we had, for a while there, we had a side YouTube channel that was just kind of like, you know, what we were playing with. We wanted to see if we could hit a trend. Lo and behold, we saw a trend. And now I'm not going to say it was months before it happened, given it was like, what would you say, 2 weeks before it actually hit?
It's probably a couple weeks, yeah.
And we had the video up and done. And we did it in, what, 2 hours?
Probably, yeah.
2 hours. And that video netted more views than anything else that we ever did on that channel.
I think it was the only thing that's ever actually made us money on like YouTube, like that way.
Yeah,
you know?
and not only that, but it did better than any of the other videos that came out weeks later. Because of course we were first in the search. I mean, we were first, and when we started trending,
probably still are. I don't even know.
Oh no, we're the first video that pulls up when you search for it. Still are to this day. Like we netted more views than any of those other channels.
And that was we were pretty uneducated on YouTube, and we still are. We're getting better at YouTube. I can't say we're masters at YouTube because we're not. You know?
No, and that's the thing is like if you've got a channel that you've previously had out there, and you've pretty much just kept putting content, and it's not quality, it is a proven fact you will absolutely demolish your account. But you know what? Here we go. You know what? We're kind of getting off on a tangent, but
yeah, we're getting off on a tangent. But that's okay. That's what we always do. We always say that every freaking episode, I feel like. But let's do this. Let's go. Let's see how this episode does. I'd like to see more questions from our family. And when I say family, I mean guys that watch the show, women that watch the show. Like, let's hear more questions that isn't about specifically just marketing, because I don't want to get into the point to where we're just doing marketing episodes. Like, we're not like a marketing crash course.
Yeah, it's like we're not going to like pigeonhole ourselves to one topic.
Exactly. Again, honestly, it just gets boring.
Yeah.
Like talking about Facebook and Instagram and this and that. That stuff, it's like, I mean, I spend most of my day doing that shit. Like, I don't want to talk about it.
So for those of you that aren't aware, it's my day job.
Yeah.
So let's have questions about anything. God, whatever it is. Let's talk about, hell, I don't care. I mean, look.
Ask me about how my Pac-Man session was last night.
Yeah, ask me why I rage so much at Call of Duty when I play it, and why I've gone through like 90 controllers and I have a hole in my wall. I don't care, but it's about anything. You know what? Anything, even life, family. Let's bring some of those topics in here outside of just business. It's fine.
Yeah,
but I think you guys get the point.
Ask us why I'm gonna burn Austin's Under Armour shirt. You should do that.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to go run for my life. I'm Austin.